Hello and welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profits Show. You've heard me say this before, but I need for you to really get it. When you know where you're going, your decisions become clear. They become easy. But when your numbers are unclear, even the right efforts feel uncertain. So today we're going to bring those numbers into focus. Hello, Lens Legends, and welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profits Show. My name is Jim Landers, your guide on the business side, and it's my mission to uplift portrait photographers to make a great income doing what they love. The Portrait Profits Show is brought to you by Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. For Digital Pro Lab, Amanda and her amazing, wonderful team, man, they make you look like a hero just by default because Amanda hires fantastic people. You're going to love working with Digital Pro Lab. If you haven't already, go to digitalprolab.com, digitalprolab.com. This show is also sponsored by my company, Landers Photography School. I teach both the photography side and the business side, and I have something free for you. Just go to that URL you see on the screen right there. And just in case you don't see it, I'll say it. Calendly.com, Calendly, not calendar, calendly.com/photoschool/15MIN. That's a private session with just you and me talking about you. Calendly.com/photoschool/15MIN for a private session for us to talk about your goals, your dreams, your future. I want to encourage you, as always, to make comments and ask questions throughout this discussion today. And while you're there over at the comments section, do me a favor, enter in hashtag live, so that we know you're watching us today on either Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube. We're simulcast to several different places. For those watching the replay, please comment hashtag replay. I also request that you share the Portrait Profits Show. That's how people find out about it, is because you've shared it with someone. That's how you found out about it. Someone shared it with you. So if you're on Facebook, click that share button. If you're on any other platform, then hit the @ and then the @ symbol and then their name so that they are aware of the Portrait Profits Show. So there we go. Photographers tend to set aside the financial side of the business. Not because it's not important, more so because it feels unclear or overwhelming or disconnected from the creative work they actually care about. I mean, this is true, even though we basically know that the financial side of photography business is what allows everything else to function. When the numbers are clear, decisions become easier. When they aren't, even strong businesses can feel uncertain. I have a guest today. His name's Jay Woolwine. He works directly with photographers to bring structure and clarity to their bookkeeping. Having previously worked as a photographer himself, he understands how easy it is for this part of the business to fall behind. So he focuses on helping photographers organize their numbers, understand what their business is producing, and move forward with confidence rather than guesswork. This conversation is about your money, knowing it, keeping it, and creating a foundation that supports both the business and the life behind it. So I want to bring on our guest today. This is Jay Woolwine. Hey, Jay. Oh, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, I muted myself because my dog's nails were clicking around the room.
Perfect.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again, Jim.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Wonderful. I'm so glad that you are here. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started working with business, with photography business owners or business owners, period?
Sure. Well, I've been home for a little over 25 years. I'm a serial entrepreneur, my wife would say. You're an entrepreneur, if you're like me, you probably have 10 irons in the fire and everything's 40% done, right? So that's kind of how it tends to be. And I've owned a ton of different businesses, done a lot of different things. I kind of have a wide variety of skills. And actually, a couple of years ago, I had to have this medical procedure, and I had this conversation with my wife. She was a little concerned, not about that something was going to happen to me, but if something did, that she didn't know how to do any of those businesses that I was running. She's been an accountant for 25 years, has a degree in accounting. That's her world. And she's like, I don't know what to do with all those things you're doing. So we decided that we would kind of merge our forces, and I would start bookkeeping. I would learn how to bookkeep. So I did. I went and got certified by QuickBooks as a certified pro advisor. I hired a mentorship program where I could learn all that stuff and ask questions. You would think I would just ask my wife, which I do a lot, but if you're married, you might understand why it's not always the greatest idea. But now, after a couple of years, we've been working together full time doing bookkeeping. And a couple of the businesses I owned at one point, I did a lot of photography. I owned an event photography business where we flew around the country every weekend shooting these mud run type events called Foam Fest. And enjoyed it. I never made a ton of money at it as far as being a profitable photographer. I did a lot of different photography. I did some real estate photography and school photography, lots of sports. I really loved the sports part of it. You've probably heard like to shoot that game, you kind of need to know the game, right? And I like that. I love baseball. I like basketball. So I enjoyed shooting those sports. But the event photography was really the biggest moneymaker, and it was just terrible. Flying out every weekend to shoot and then spending all week, culling and editing and tagging people in those so they could find their pictures and stuff. It was just not a great business model. So eventually got away from it and did a bunch of other things like I talked about. So I kind of have that background. I understand being a business owner. I understand the goods and the bads of it. And I think that I bring that to the table for our bookkeeping clients because I know they're all entrepreneurs, right? All of us are entrepreneurs at some level or another. And I understand that mindset. I understand what's behind it. I know the long hours. You give up the paycheck on Friday to spend twice as many hours working in your own business, but we've all chosen that, right? So that's kind of where I'm at.
That makes sense. Yeah. So it's interesting how that transition works from the different things you've done and why. Thank you for sharing that with us. So how would you describe who you're working with now, and how is it that you're helping them?
Well, we mainly work with photographers, not only photographers. I do have a couple other clients, but literally I think now the percentage is like 91%, 92% photographers. And they're all service-based business owners, right? You're all working in the service industry. But what typically happens is you kind of outgrow your business as far as the financial side goes, right? Most of them have grown quickly and they kind of feel like the bookkeeping hasn't kept up, which is super common. And most of our clients are making pretty good money, but they don't really have a clear, organized way of figuring out like how much money they actually make. Like a lot of photographers, if I ask them, how much did you make last month or even last year? They'll open their checkbook, right, to see if they got money. That's how they don't know. And even if they tell you what's in there, you and I both know if you start to think about it, that's not really how much money you have because you have all these expenses, that monthly set of expenses are going to hit every month, whether you made any money or not, right? And so we help bring clarity to that, right? We step in, we clean everything up, we get the accounts fully reconciled every month, right? Every month we give them a P&L and a balance sheet, go through it with them. We set up some simple monthly systems to help keep things on track going forward. And kind of for a lot of people, it's kind of like having an accountability partner, right? I mean, I'm not gonna hound you, but I can help hold you accountable as far as like, hey, I need those statements. And then a week later, I might, hey, I need those statements, or I can't get you these reports, right? And I'll continue to remind you because that's the only way I can do my job. And but for a lot of people, that's good. That little bit of hand holding helps them stay on task.
Yeah, I think we all need a little push in that direction. It's not our thing as creatives. I mean, I'm sure there's some photographers who love that stuff also, but the majority of us are not interested in that. We'll do it, but what are some of the signs? Maybe they're obvious, maybe they're not, but what are some of the signs a photographer might notice in themselves that says that their bookkeeping isn't where it needs to be?
Right. Well, I mean, the goal is to give them all clear, reliable numbers that you can make decisions on,
Okay.
and you can stop stressing about taxes and cash flow.
Hmm.
But some of the common signs would be like when it's tax season, if you feel like it's crunch time, right? And you hear that a lot this time of year, right? In 2 days, I think. 2 days? I think that's right. Yeah.
It
2 days,
is
right?
2 days.
April 15th. Not for business
Yeah.
owners, that's for personal, but
Right. Yeah.
um, but it's crunch time, right? And so if tax season feels like it's a big scramble, right? And you're digging through receipts and statements and doing all this last minute stuff, you probably don't have a routine, right? it's that's the wrong routine to have if that's your routine. So another one would be, I mean, most of you probably have contractors in your business. You might not, but a lot of photographers have contractors, right?
Yeah.
They shoot an event, a sporting event, or some type of event, and they will hire photographers and have contractors. They're not paid employees necessarily, but those second shooters or editors. And you're at the end of the year, right? You gotta give them 1099s, or you don't have to, right? I
Yeah.
have some
Well,
people that in the past haven't, right? And if you
huh.
don't know the difference, go ahead. I thought you were going to say something, Jim. Sorry.
Oh no.
um,
Just thinking that through.
yeah, if you don't give them that 1099, I mean, ultimately they're responsible for claiming that they made money.
Right.
But if you don't give them a 1099, you don't have a way to take that off of your income, right? So
Right.
if Jim did $5,000 worth of shooting for me this year, and I just pay him, he's happy, right? But that income is still on me unless I give him a 1099. I'm paying taxes on that $5,000 of income that I made, right? So I want to tell the government, hey, I paid Jim $5,000, right? That lowers my taxable income by $5,000, and across all your photographers, all your second shooters, all year, it adds up, right? So if you don't know who worked, how many hours and how they got paid and all that stuff, you don't have all that information together, that might be another sign that you might need a little bit of help. If you
Well, I
don't know
like
what your profit is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jim.
I like that. If you feel like you're rushing or it's crunch time, here's your sign.
Yeah, exactly. And like we said before, like if you don't know what your profit is, that's a telltale sign.
And we
And
don't. You're right. The average Joe photographer has no idea. They'll say something that is unrelated to numbers. They'll say I'm doing fine, or I'm good, I'm busy, schedule's full. They don't know their numbers, so they can't answer that question. You're right. And they need to know. They need to know that it's beneficial to them in every way to know those numbers.
yeah, I mean, you can't, let's say you want to get a small business loan, right? I know a lot of people did, like during COVID. If you don't have a set of books, like a set of numbers, you're not going to be able to get a loan. You can't sell. Let's say you want to sell your business, right? We had a guy recently that wanted to sell his business. He hadn't even filed his taxes in 2 years. Like, nobody's going to buy a business you haven't filed taxes on in 2 years. Like, you have to keep up on that stuff. So, and then probably the biggest telltale sign is if you're mixing your business expenses and your personal expenses together, you definitely need some help. That opens you up to all kinds of liability, whether or not you realize it. Like, even if let's say you're an LLC, right? And an LLC or even an S corp provides you protection from people suing you, right? It separates your personal and your business. You think you're protected. But if you're commingling your funds, then ultimately, if that ends up in court, the attorney's going to look at it and go, well, you're paying all this stuff out of your personal account. So this is kind of like it's all together, and all of a sudden your house is on the block, right? I mean, that kind of stuff can happen if you don't keep those things separate. And I know everybody does it. I have one client that's really good about keeping it separate. And everybody else is pretty good, right? But there's some that they're literally financing their lifestyle through the business and just running everything through, and I have to separate it all out, which I can do, right? We can do it, but it's just not the greatest way to protect yourself.
Well, then that brings me to, it partially answers my next thought, is when you first start working with someone, you're looking at their books for the first time, assuming they have any. But when you're starting working with someone, what are the most common things you're seeing? And I have a feeling probably the most is the commingling of its business and life all in one. So, if that's the case, tell me that. But I bet there's some other common things that you're seeing.
Yeah. I mean, the most common thing is that they don't have any bookkeeping system. That honestly, I mean, nobody comes to me and says, "Hey, my books are perfect. Can you take over?" Right? It's just they don't need me if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
They come to me when they're behind, and this is totally a judgment-free zone. Everybody, like I said, everybody that comes to us is in that position, so don't worry about that. But not having any systems in place, right? Or even if they do have QuickBooks, that somehow people think like, I got QuickBooks, that makes me a bookkeeper, right? And just clicking add in QuickBooks with whatever QuickBooks said the category was,
Yeah.
doesn't really help you. There's tons of duplicate transactions, missing income, missing expenses, and then the numbers don't actually line up. Nobody ever reconciles their account in QuickBooks. They just put everything in there and think that that's somehow bookkeeping. So not having any bookkeeping habits or messy bookkeeping habits, missing accounts, right? Like not like they're just taking the net that Stripe says you made this month from photo day, right? The problem is that you're ultimately underreporting your income. If you don't, you need to show the full income and then take the Stripe fees out, and then that net is how much your income really is. But if you don't show that difference, a lot of people are just reporting just that net. You're underreporting your income, and ultimately you can end up in trouble. So, and then another really common thing is too many tools, right? Multiple subscriptions we catch for people a lot. I think there's some app that does it, but we're a pretty good app for that because we're in their accounts all the time. I don't know how many photographers I've helped get rid of Lightroom subscriptions, Photoshop subscriptions, because they have 3 of them somehow. And I know how it happens, right? You're on the road somewhere, you're trying to edit something, you don't have access to something, you just buy it because you need it, right? Or you sign it up for somebody else so they can have access.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you just forget about it, and somehow you're paying $300 a month to Adobe, right? When all you need is the photo package for whatever it is, $20 a month or something. So, those are some pretty common things.
Yeah, I can relate to all that. So that's interesting. How are these issues and any other issues that a photographer may be experiencing affect their ability to understand what's going on, what they're actually making, how their future is derived from knowing what kind of income they're making, and what are those issues that are affecting that photographer's ability to understand what's going on?
I mean, it all kind of works together. If you don't know those numbers, right? Like all the things we're talking about, or any of them, if you don't have systems in place, you can't tell what your profit is. If you can't tell you what your profit is, you're going to have a hard time budgeting, right? We all know that the photography business is very seasonal for most of you, depending on what type of photography you're in. And that seasonality, right? Even though the income goes up and down, your expenses could stay relatively the same, right? If you're not using a lot of second shooters and stuff.
Yeah.
So at some point, your income comes back down to where your net of expenses is, right? And they could cross over. And if you don't know when that is exactly and how much that expense bubble is, you could get yourself in trouble, right? And that's what having these numbers really helps you do, right? It just having the systems set up and working properly just gives you the confidence to make decisions for your business, right? To budget down the road, to scale your business, right? Hey, I'm doing great. Let's bring somebody on full time, right? Now's the time to buy that extra camera body or those, Godox lights, whatever it is that you want or need. But there might be time to not do it if you know that you're coming into your slow period and your expenses are this and your income is typically this. And as you get it in there over time in QuickBooks, it'll show you your cash flow, right? And that cash flow is everything. Knowing what that is really helps you project what you can expect, how you can scale, where you need to maybe scale back, all those things.
All right. So tax, government stuff, that part makes sense. But what else is happening over time if these things aren't addressed? If someone continues not doing their books or not doing them correctly?
Yeah, I mean, typically it starts to compound, right? And it catches up with you, quickly. First, you're first is burnout, probably, right?
Mm,
I mean, you're working all the time anyway, right? And you're not really seeing the money, and eventually the stress, mentally, it's just you get to a point where you don't think it's worth it anymore, right? And I've run into a lot of people that are kind of at that point. They're like, I don't know if I should get your help or I should just quit. Right? And they're literally at that precipice of
yeah.
quitting.
Yeah.
Right. And once we get under control, they're like, okay, I am actually making money. I just didn't know, right? Because they just got their nose down to the grindstone all the time, right? And I can't take that out of it, but knowing that the bookkeeping, imagine having that feeling and then knowing that in the back of your head that your bookkeeping is looming back there, not getting done, right? It's just another layer of stress that you don't need, right?
Good point. Yeah.
So that burnout is real, and then your growth becomes a problem, like we talked about. If you want a loan or open a studio or buy a house, any of those things, right? If you don't have clear numbers to show your income, you get stuck. On the tax side, mixing the personal and the business, it not only turns into a mess, reduces your protection. If you get audited, you won't have the proof you need, right? Which can get expensive fast, not just the taxes, but the penalties. Those things add up, right?
I
And
agree.
eventually cash flow becomes the issue, like we talked about. One slow season or some big unexpected expense can hit at any point, and without a cushion, right, the business, it just can't really keep going, right? You are the business, and all of those unknowns make budgeting hard. And we all know that business can be seasonal and streaky, like we talked about. So it's just you just need to be prepared for it.
Yeah. A lot of variables there. Huh. All right. So let's say that you've been working with someone for a little while, new client, but now you've been working with them enough to get things situated. Uh, what is changing for them? I mean, what are some of the results you've gotten for yourself and your clients?
I think I think the biggest one is just gaining clarity, right? And confidence in
Hmm.
what you're doing, that you're making money, right? You're making good decisions. Because like I said, most photographers are making money. They have the ability to make money, but you don't know how much, right? So you don't know how to change your business or tweak it. Jim can help you, right? He'll help you grow your business, be a better photographer, be a better business owner. But even with that, if you don't have that clarity and the confidence that what you're doing is right, which really comes down to, right, is
That's
the
right.
money for most of us. I mean, some of us are doing
It's
it for the
true.
love, but a lot of you, it's still your paycheck, right?
Well, it's a business, and if you,
It's a
if
business,
you're if
yeah.
you're
And you got
watering
to
that
treat it
down,
like a
that's not
business.
effective.
And that's how, think about this. I mean, that's how the government defines it, right? When
That's
it
right.
stops becoming when it's not a hobby and it becomes a business, right? That's what all of this is showing them that it's a business, right? I mean, a lot of our clients come in months, I mean, literally years. I just did a 4-year cleanup for somebody, 4 years, right? They hadn't reconciled anything. Their taxes are behind. They don't really know how much money they're making. Once we clean things up, it's maintained every month. Everything changes, right? They actually understand their numbers, and it's everything's up to date, right? The tax time is no longer stressful. You're tax ready every month. Every month, everything's done, right? So at the end of the year, we give you all those documents. You give your CPA a a P&L and a balance sheet, and he can do your taxes from that, right? There's no more you having to dig out what all those numbers are and figure out what it was at the end of the year. You can just clearly see your income, your expenses, your profit, everything. And that helps you feel in control, right? When you're in control, maybe for the first time. For me, I built my business around working with photographers specifically. So I understand your tools, I understand the workflows, I understand the common issues that you run into, especially with the seasonality. It just makes everything a little bit smoother because I understand how the money flows into those other tools, like Got Photo and Photo Day, those things. So it's a good mix.
It is. We we creatives need a lot of energy in our creative energy tank. We need to keep it full, and it's up to us to keep it full. It's not up to others. However, others do occasionally do some things that empty our creative energy tank. But this is one that we can take control of. Sure, you can do it yourself, but it's something that you can hire out to Jay to do, and it takes those things, that anything that we can take away that is draining our creative energy tank is a positive for us as creatives. And this is a perfect example of something that is draining our creative energy. If we're not doing our numbers, if we're not doing our taxes, or not keeping up, or we're behind, this is adding stress. This is depleting your creative energy tank. And so there's an easy solution. And it's not relying on yourself, because clearly you haven't done that so well. But there's an easy solution. So yeah, I can see working with the bookkeeper, obviously working with Jay is the way to go. So yeah, thanks for saying that.
Nicole, sorry, I
That's
knew she was
fine.
gonna come home in the middle.
Hey,
Yeah,
it's real
once
life.
everything's organized and up to date, it changes everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine that, just like I said, that nagging bookkeeping isn't lurking back there, right? You stop guessing when it comes to spending. Instead of checking your bank balance, you actually know what you can afford and what you can't, right? And when, for gear or for people, whatever it is. Pricing gets easier too. When you know your numbers, you feel more comfortable and confident in what you can charge, right? You
Right.
stop second guessing that. I'm sure that Jim will teach you this, but like, it's not necessarily that you need more clients, right? You're probably undercharging.
Most of the time.
Right. Yeah, pricing gets easier when you know those numbers, right? So
Yeah,
the
it does.
bookkeeping gets simpler. Instead of stressful once a year mess, becomes a quick weekly check-in. Takes a few minutes. Honestly, that biggest shift is just peace of mind, right? It's. I know it sounds like a sales pitch, but we
Well,
look at
it does, but it's the truth, and that's all. That's what we're hoping to
right.
get out of the
I
show.
mean,
That's
it's an
what
investment
viewers of the show want.
in your sanity, right? And your stress management, not just people look at it as an expense, right? Bookkeeping, how much does it cost, right? How much is not doing it costing you, right? It's just
So,
it's a mindset shift.
would you say that once everything's organized and up to date, um, these are examples of what is changing on a day-to-day level? And if so, are there other things that that I haven't considered yet that are changing on a day-to-day level?
All right, sorry, get the pups put away.
Did you hear that, or should I ask again?
Ask me again. I
Yeah,
apologize.
sure. So we've been talking about the things that are not happening, or the things that are happening as a result of getting organized. So my thoughts are, once everything is organized, once everything is up to date, um, the things we've been talking about, the changes we've been talking about, these are things that we can feel on a day-to-day level. Are those all the things that we're going to feel? Is there something else that maybe I haven't asked yet, that is changing for a photographer on a day-to-day level once they do become organized, once they are up to date, once they do have that as it's not draining their creative energy tank any longer?
I think it's all the things that we mentioned. It's it's just the stress relief, right? It's just not something you don't have to worry about. I know you have a lot on your plate. This is just something that's not on your plate anymore. We literally take the bookkeeping off the table for you, and not having that lurking gives you back that energy. Maybe you're spending that time in your business, right? Maybe it's you're spending it by the pool, right? Which is just as valuable. Maybe it's time with your family, whatever it is. You're getting that time back. So whether you want to put a dollar figure on it, or just think of what you can do with the time, to relax, spend it with your family, whatever it is.
Since you're working with photographers, you probably are seeing some consistencies or trends. You're probably seeing some differences, but you're probably able to better make suggestions to new clients as you go, as you learn more, as you experience more, as you see the things that work and don't work. And so I'm wondering if whatever a bookkeeper charges is actually less than what is being saved by working with them.
This is not my number, but if you just go and Google how much can having a bookkeeper save me per year, I think the number's between $3,000 and $5,000 a year
That's significant.
that they say will save you just by having one, right? Not necessarily just having one that's in your industry, or a good one,
Yeah.
but just having a bookkeeper. That's what the Google says, right? And that's just based on, again, we know what we're doing, right? We know we have experience in all of those expenses. I'm not a CPA, right? I don't do taxes, just to be clear. If you're not familiar with the difference between a bookkeeper and a CPA, I don't do taxes. We do everything to hand it off to your tax guy, which I think is good also. It's another set of eyes, right? I typically confer right with the CPA, right? They'll message me and say, hey, can you tell me what's in this category? We'll show them. Here's a common one, right? Is people say, oh, I'm claiming my gas and my maintenance and all my tires and my expenses on my car, right? And then there's people over here that are saying, oh, I'm claiming mileage, right? The government says I can take 76 cents per mile. We give you, if you will give us those numbers, right? We put it all on in your QuickBooks, and then your CPA can look at it and say, he'll have those numbers and say, oh, you're much better off taking the mileage over these things, right? Or vice versa. But you got to have all that, right? So it's just having all that information. Again, I think it's really hard to put a number on it. And I think as a bookkeeper, certainly it just pays for itself, but you have to figure it out for yourself.
If someone were to ask you about an implementation suggestion, based on your experience, what are you going to give them? I mean, I'm sure, just like right now, you're giving advice, you're giving suggestions, you're sharing things. You're not charging us anything for it. There's no one paying to watch the show. So therefore, you're giving some value away and giving suggestions. What's an implementation suggestion that you could give to someone right now who's thinking, maybe down the line, that's what I want to do, but I do want to pay more attention to my bookkeeping? What are you going to suggest to that guy?
I'd say first would be to stop the bleeding, right? It's triage. If you're mixing personal and business, start there, right? Just try to be better, right? Use your
Does that mean
business
get
card.
2 bank accounts, get a checking account, get a personal checking account? Is that what you mean by that?
100%. Yeah, you definitely need to have that.
Yeah.
And then you need to use those accounts for that, right? Have a business credit card or a business debit card, run all your business transactions on that, right? And then pay for your groceries with your debit card for your personal account. Try not to mix them. That would be a good place to start. I would say if QuickBooks seems overwhelming to you, skip it. Even if you just printed out your last bank statement and highlighted your business expenses on it, right? Sometimes taking it offline makes it easier. If you're behind, it seems like it's too much, you're not going to hire a bookkeeper, just start highlighting your business expenses so you don't have to do it all at the end of the year, right? Just do baby steps, right? Maybe set a 15-minute money date, right? Where you're going to block off 15 minutes and that's it. You're going to categorize some transactions, and just build that like a habit, right? Build it. The goal is to build a habit, not just catch up all at once.
So would you say that was a good first step for someone who's listening, who's feeling behind?
I mean, if you're behind, it just depends on your own capacity to fix it, right? I don't know if that's the best step for you to start highlighting spreadsheets or statements, right? That might not be enough for you if you're behind already.
Okay.
But if you think that you can get a handle on it, at least it's someplace to start. A lot of people, I think they just put it off too long and it becomes daunting. I think
sure.
if you can get some help, maybe people don't know. I mean, some people just don't know there is help. They don't know what a bookkeeper is. They don't know that we're out here, right? That we connect your bank accounts to our software, pulls in all your transactions. So you're not like, I'm not asking you to, I'm not going to be on the phone with you every night asking you what you spent your money on, right? It comes into the
Good
software. I
point.
tell it where to go. It's very sophisticated. If you have payroll, we hook the payroll to it. We just take it all off your plate, and it just makes everything so much easier. I think that I think the first step would be to investigate it, right? Hop on a call, ask some questions, make sure you understand what is available to you so you can take advantage of it.
So, do most people who are keeping their books um, start off at least doing it themselves, or do they continue to do it themselves? Do you come across people who they aren't switching bookkeepers; they're coming to you for the first time? They've been doing it themselves all along. Is that what you see most of the time?
It's a pretty good mix.
Okay,
I do have some photographers that have just grown, right? They were $100,000 a year, right? And then all of a sudden they're $300,000 a year, and they're like, I don't know, I just don't have time anymore, right?
right,
They started it, they have some stuff going, but then when I take over, they're like 4 months behind, right? Which is that's just a sign, right? They're starting to fall behind. They did it for a long time. They're not behind on their taxes, but they need some help. So that's pretty common. Very common is they just didn't do anything all of 2025. Hey, I need to get caught up for 2025 and then just have you keep me up monthly from now on. That's probably the majority of people. And then there's a few that are, hey, I haven't done anything in 4 years. The government's hounding me. I haven't paid my taxes. I don't even know where to start, right? So we get everybody, all different.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, hmm. Would you say there are some who just don't need a bookkeeper, or it's beneficial really to every single person who is considering themselves a business owner?
um, I think everybody could benefit from it. It might not make great financial sense if you're still growing, right? If you're small, you're scaling. I don't know. I can't tell you what that dollar amount is. I'd say most of my clients are probably close to 100,000 a year gross, right? And gross is, if you don't know, is before expenses. So um, again, you won't know what your gross and your net are if you're not keeping track of things to know what the difference is.
Yeah.
But and I have a photographer that's like 1.5 million a year. So um, everybody in that range could benefit. Now, if you're on the low end, it maybe maybe it's not worth it to you to hire a bookkeeper. I think it would, the dollars would make sense for you, but you have to get out of the expense mindset, because again, it just doesn't cost you that much. If you get a CPA, you get a good tax guy, you give them good numbers, they'll save you that money just on your taxes every month. Most people are still, when they're small, they're in the sole proprietor mindset.
Right.
They're
Exactly.
paying 30% self-employment tax or whatever it is now, and it just takes a big chunk of your money. There's a way to keep a lot of that money.
So I've got one last question. When you look at the photographers that you're already working with, what's something that you want them or wish more of them understood earlier, not maybe at this point in time, but earlier about their numbers and their business? Are they saying things like, "I wish I would have called you sooner," or what are things that you wish that more of them knew or understood earlier?
I think I think what you realize it, but you don't realize the expenses. But it's that your time has real value, right? It's your time. Whether you say your time is $30 an hour or $300 an hour, right? Every hour you spend messing with a spreadsheet, trying to figure out bookkeeping, is time you're not shooting, right? It's time you're not booking clients, or it's time you're not recharging, right? And I think a lot of photographers think outsourcing as it's like some kind of luxury, right? But it's really not. It's an investment that gives you your time back.
Yeah.
And that's usually where the money is made.
Nice. If someone has a question, um, just a general question, maybe they haven't decided they want to work with the bookkeeper yet, but would you be open to receiving questions, or having them call you or email you or text or DM you? I'm just thinking, before I wrap up, for those who have questions or need some help with this, is there a way, or would you be willing to allow them to reach out to you?
Yeah, 100%. You can go to my website. It's quickfiguresbookkeeping.com. And if you haven't ever spelled the word, it's a weird one. Bookkeeping is 2 O's, 2 K's, and 2 E's. so
I'm
that's
glad you said that.
quickfiguresbookkeeping.com. I also have a Calendly. You can go to calendly.com/quickfiguresbookkeeping. Book a call. I'll hop on with you for free. I'll look at your books for free if you have books. There's a way for you, if you have QuickBooks, you can give me access to it. I can look at your books. I'll do a free audit for you. I'll look at it and tell you, hey, this is great, or this sucks, right? You need some help.
That's fantastic.
Here's some red flag items you need to get on right away, or hey, you're doing all right. I also have if you message me from the website, there's a way to send me a message on there. I have a checklist for like the DIY bookkeeper. It's like 75 to 100 tax deductions for photographers. I'll send you that. It's just a PDF.
Nice.
Just kind of look through it and see if you're taking advantage of those, and if you're not, might be another thing to think about.
Wow, that's some good stuff. Thank you for allowing us to just reach out to you and pick your brain, not just hear me asking questions on the show, but them being able to actually reach out to you and talk about some very specific things to their life, to their business. So thank you so much for offering, man, and thanks for sharing your perspective and helping bring some additional clarity to a part of the business of photographers we're struggling with. We don't want to talk about, we don't want to do. If we didn't have to do it, I don't think most of us would. I think that we don't care much about the behind the scenes stuff, the business stuff, the numbers side. I think we like creating. I think we like our clients, or we just like creating. We like that creative side. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective and helping to bring clarity to us creatives, us wonderful portrait photographers.
You bet. I'm happy to do it.
Well, you're awesome. Thank you so much for spending your time here with us today. Thanks for offering your time additionally after this ends. Lens Legends, do me a favor. By the way, I call my audience Lens Legends.
Got that? Yeah.
So Lens Legends, do me a favor. Go over to the comments section and tell Jay thanks. Let him know you appreciate him. Ask any questions you have. I can see several of you have already done. Oh, everybody's just hitting in hashtag live. But just show him appreciation. And Jay, thanks so much for being here. I look forward to talking to you again. I'm going to take you off screen and then share some announcements and upcoming shows. But thank you so much for your time and being here today.
You bet. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
Bye, guys.
Oh, man. Isn't he fantastic? The fact that he's offering his time after the show, I mean, he's given us his time during. The fact that he's offering his time after the show, no strings attached, just let's take a look and give suggestions. Man, take advantage of that. That is fantastic that he's doing that for us. Lens Legends, what we heard today is something that applies to every photography business, no matter what stage you're at, beginning, the middle, closer to the end. It doesn't really matter, because clarity changes how decisions are made. When you know where it is that you're going, you know what paths and roads to take. You know what decisions need to be made. When you don't know, man, it's where most people are right now. When you understand what your business is producing, you begin to see what's working, what needs attention, what direction makes sense. Without clarity, even a busy business feels uncertain. So I want to take one more moment to thank Jay Woolwine of Quick Figures Bookkeeping, Quick Figures Bookkeeping, for sharing his perspective with us today and for helping bring clarity to a part of the business that many photographers struggle with. I mean, you don't want to become a bookkeeper. I don't. But whether you choose to handle the bookkeeping yourself or bring someone in like Jay to help, what matters is that you are no longer guessing. Instead, you must understand your business well enough to guide it. Because when the numbers become clear, the path forward becomes clear as well. All right. I have some announcements coming up this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I'll put this on the screen. And that's not how I want to see it on the screen. How about this? Yeah, there we go. All right. So KEH is coming back to Digital Pro Lab this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You can turn your gear into cash or lab credit, but just by showing up during regular business hours at Digital Pro Lab. Now, if you want more information, go to Eventbrite and enter in Digital Pro Lab so you can get more information. Or, you know what? I've got a QR code. Let me put that up on the screen for a moment. Hopefully you can see that. Hopefully it's not too small. But that is the QR code to get more information. It takes you actually to the Eventbrite announcement for Cash for Cameras at Digital Pro Lab. So do a screenshot real quick of that QR code before I take it off the screen. All right, I'm taking it off the screen. As you know, there we go. The Portrait Profit Show is every Monday. Now, on the second Monday of each month, we move it to 6:30. That's where we're at right now, 6:30 in the evening. That's Central Daylight Time. But all the other Mondays, it's at noon. And so I want to share with you some upcoming shows. In 1 week from today, this is interesting because I'm going to put this up on the screen. There we go. Now it's on the screen. That's not it. That's what I wanted to have on the screen. All right. So I did something last week, and I didn't even know it was possible. I went, and I know this sounds crazy, I went 7 years into the future. Now, I don't know what you would have done had you gone 7 years into the future, but you're probably no surprise what I did. I sat down with photographers who are doing really well. I wanted to know what they were doing. I wanted to bring it back to share with you. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm so excited to tell you what they shared with me, how they're running their business, what they're using, what's changed. Oh my goodness. This next week is something you're not going to want to miss. You are going to want to hear this. Put it on your calendar, April 20th at noon, right here on the Portrait Profit Show. That's 1 week. Now, let's talk about 1 week after that. This is on April 27th. This is 5 principles every photographer should understand. You know, I've been doing this for a while, and many patterns appear again and again in photography careers. This episode explores 5 powerful principles. The Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, if you haven't heard these, some of these are kind of entertaining. Dunning-Kruger is not entertaining, but it is, well, you'll enjoy it if you don't know already, or it might explain some things. The Dunning-Kruger effect, Parkinson's law, the Pareto principle, 80-20, you've heard it, Hanlon's razor, and the Landers principle, and how these 5 influence the way photographers think, how they focus their time, and how they are building strong businesses. Seeing these ideas connect will help you create a photography career that lasts. And let's look at one more on May 4th at noon, 12 business truths. A photography business grows based on the decisions you make and the standards that you set. These 12 business truths will help you attract the right clients and build a business that supports your life. Now, I have all of the episodes through the end of May, and I could keep on telling you what they are, but let's stop there because that may be overwhelming. But the next 3 in a row, put it on your calendar. In fact, block off Mondays at noon because you're busy. You've got a lot of things going on in your life, and you're going to forget, not because there's anything wrong with you, but because you are busy. You've got a lot of stuff going on in your life. So put the Portrait Profit Show on your calendar at noon every Monday, with the exception of the second Monday of each month, so that you never forget. So add these, and they're free. So add these free lessons to your calendar before you forget. You know, the work you do matters. You don't need me to tell you. You know this. Lens Legends, the photographs you create, the way you serve your clients, and the effort you put into building something meaningful, all of that deserves a business that supports it. Clarity, not perfection. Perfection's a waste of time. But clarity, knowing where you're heading, knowing that it can change, but knowing where you're heading. Not having everything figured out. Trying to do everything yourself can spread you thin and drain you of the creative energy you need for the work that matters most. In many cases, bringing in the right help costs a lot less than continuing to do it yourself, especially when you consider the clarity and direction it provides. Because when you combine your abilities to create meaningful photographs with a business that is clear and well guided, you give yourself the opportunity to build something that truly supports the life you want. And yes, a photography business can support the life you want. You just have to define it and then head in that direction. And of course, I help with that. For Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, my name is Jim Landers, and I'm bringing you the weekly Portrait Profit Show. You guys are awesome. I thoroughly appreciate you. Bye for now.